All right, welcome. So, this is a really powerful book, and I feel like it's something that, as we are raised, we were definitely not spoken to correctly, and we are just perpetuating the way that we speak. And every time in the book, when they give an example, like if I talk to you that way, would you feel good about it? You're like, God, no. But it's exactly the way that we talk to our kids. And so I think the biggest takeaway and the biggest lens that you can look at this through is if my husband spoke to me this way, would I accept it? And if I won't accept it from my husband or my wife, why should my kid accept it from me? And if we're hearing the things coming out of our kid's mouth that we don't like, it's traditionally coming from us. So, lots of conviction, lots of it. But that's like, I would say the biggest takeaway is like when you are in a situation with your kid, and I was in a situation with a kid yesterday as I was applying this, and she came in and she was so mad. And I said, and instead of being like, oh, that's not a big deal, or da 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 da, that must be hard. I said, are you frustrated? And she was like, yes. And I said, are you mad? And she's like, no, I'm frustrated. I said, yeah, it sounds really frustrating. And then literally diffused the entire time. This kid is a kid that always like goes straight to a meltdown. And I was like, and then I started to say, well, it's not, and I was like, don't say that, Bridget. I even said it out loud. I was like, don't say that, Bridget. And then I went through the whole process. So it was very powerful to like apply it yesterday and watch it work with a kid that's not even mine. And then to try and do it all morning with our children since 7 a.m.
Yep. The book covers so many different topics: tools for handling emotions, engaging cooperation, resolving conflict, praise and appreciation for kids who are differently wired. And I don't like that section because then it feels like something is wrong with the child. I feel like all the stuff in that chapter is very applicable to all children. And we'll talk about it there. When these tools don't work, what are our options? And then it breaks down so many different things: food fights, mourning, sibling rivalry, like so many different things. And then we'll talk about what is next for us here. And so the first is tools for handling emotions. And the cool part with the book is that many of the tools repeat in different sections. And so it's not like we have to have, again, with all those different things, I don't even know how many there were, probably 7 different things outside of the individual topics. It's not like she gave hundreds of tools to use. It was pretty consistent from
like the
point
same
to point
5 things
of just like
applying them in different situations.
How do you apply it to all the different situations? And so tools for handling emotions, and this has been through all of the books that we've gone through so far. Acknowledge the feelings with words. And so like Bridget said, just do you feel angry? We talked about like don't necessarily even ask them, just make the assumption, just like read them and just say, it seems like you are feeling this way. And then if they're just like Aria, I'm assuming it was Aria, did yesterday, she was like, no, I don't feel that, I feel this. But if you ask them a question, it almost can be enticing, like just furthering and adding more fuel to the fire.
Or
it's
being
like,
angry.
are you angry? And like visibly she's angry. It's like, yes,
I'm angry.
I'm real angry. And so just acknowledging, like, I can see that you are feeling X, Y, or Z. And then just helping them because, and we've talked about this again for the past few months, is that kids, especially in this 2 to 7 range, they don't have an emotional vocabulary to describe what it is that they're feeling. They have these huge emotions, but they don't know what it's called. And just by labeling it, it diffuses the situation because now it's like, yeah, that is what I'm feeling. And then they can now start to process it as opposed to having these huge feelings and really not even know what's happening on the inside because they don't have the ability to process it yet. So just by labeling it and say, it seems like, or it looks like, and then just describe what you're seeing. And then some other easy ones, acknowledge your feelings with writings. And it was interesting because you said, even if they can't read, just if you write it down, it is going to be helpful. And that tip, I think, was one of the big takeaways that I'm going to take away from this. In all situations, especially like there's one in the grocery store, just writing it down to acknowledge for them, they can see, I see something, I'm saying something, I'm acting a certain way, and my parents are now taking some sort of action with that. As opposed to us just like brushing them off and saying, oh, it's not a big deal, oh, don't worry about it. It's like, I'm going to take specific action with this, acknowledge how you feel with art, and just like, can you draw what you're feeling? Especially for older kids, especially in like the 5 to 7 range or even 4 to 7, just like draw what you're feeling.
One of the things they did really well was like, are you this angry? And they like drew an angry face. And then like the kid starts to smirk and smile. And then she was like, are you feeling this way? And did like a straight face. And then Another one where she was like, are you feeling this way? And she drew happy, and she literally put the kid through the emotions. And then another one was, and because there's all these different stories of moms handling different situations with each kid. So like, that's why the book is really helpful. And it's a 10-hour listen on regular speed. So it's a 5-hour listen on 2 times speed, in case you want to do it. But the stories were really powerful. But one, she was like, are you sad? And so she drew a sad face, and then she added a tear. And the kid was like, more, bigger. And then she goes, can you show me? And the kid drew these giant tears on the thing and was just like, I'm this sad. And that was all he needed to do to be like, cool, good, ready to go play blocks now. But they processed the emotion with the art. And even the writing, like our daughter, who's 4, obviously can't read. But if I was to write the word anger really big and angry, I'd be like, this is anger. Are you angry? And then... or sad and writing it in blue and whatever you want to do, like whatever it resonates with you as a parent, and giving them those things. And even, and this is scientifically proven, that if you write the thing that you're upset at, no matter how old you are, you're like, I am pissed at my in-laws. And then you take a pen and you just go like this underneath it, is just as cathartic for you as writing out all of your feelings. Like people are like, you should journal. Like journaling can literally be you scribbling on a piece of paper until you're so mad. And one of the examples they did was like the woman was scrabbling so hard when she was showing anger that she ripped the paper, and the kid was like, ha ha ha. And then she ripped it again. He was like, let me do it. And then he ripped it up and he goes, look at all my anger. And he would come back and he'd be like, I was really angry, Mom. And they like left that pile there, and like he like revisits, he was like, I was really angry there. And just giving this like, I'm understood, you see me, you've shown me physically, or whatever it is. And like our son will go to art when he is upset. So I feel like art would work really well. But I feel like for our daughter, she would like to destroy the paper more than draw. Yeah. And so again, figuring out what your kid is, and that's why there's like these 5 tools like in every situation. I think it's 5, right? I'm pretty sure it's these 5.
Yeah, it depends. 5 to 7, or sometimes 4.
And then the next one is like in fantasy in fantasy what you cannot give them. And so it's just like, I want ice cream right now, and you're like, gosh, ice cream sounds so good.
Well, yeah, in the little cartoon, they pulled up to an ice cream shop and it was closed. And he said, man, imagine if we had the key to the ice cream shop and we could eat all the flavors that we wanted. What would you eat? Yeah.
And you do this thing where and they're like, well, I'd have cotton candy and mint. I'd have 7 scoops. Oh, you'd have 7? I'd have 8. Oh, what would we do next? We put whipped cream on it, and then you do this fantasy thing, and by the time you're going through it, the kids are like so having such a good time with their imagination that they're like, okay, well, it's not open, but we pretended, and now we can go home.
And then you could combine the tool with writing and just say, let's write that down for the next time that we come so we know what we want to get.
Mm-hmm. And one of the ones they said was there was a kid, and they talk about neurodivergence in this a lot. So if you know anyone or have anyone with kids that are in that spectrum, they said this kid fell asleep and he had looked forward. They said, when we drive home, we are going to go to this park. And he was so excited. It's his favorite park, but he fell asleep. And his mom's like, I'm not waking him up. I feel like we've been in this situation a lot of times where the kids fall asleep when you're off to do, like on the way home, we'll do that. Like you're going there and you're late. They're like, can we do that? And you're like, on the way home. And then they're sleeping. And so he got home, and as soon as his dad picked him up to transfer him, he woke up and realized that he missed the park and went straight meltdown mode. And the woman said, well, what would you have done if I'm really sorry you were sleeping, we blah, blah, blah. And he's devastated. What would you have done if we went to the park? What's your favorite part? And he's like, the swings. Oh, you've gone on the swings? How many times have you gone on the swings? What would you do after the swings? And like just going through it.
Drew it out.
And then she drew out, like, let's draw a picture of the park and what you would have done, and draw you in the park. And like they had to have this thing where the kid could just come down from the sheer disappointment. We just went through disappointment the other day. We ordered a pizza. We were going to go pick it up. We didn't realize how long it was going to take us to be at home. We got to the pizza place, lights out. They made our pizza. They probably ate our pizza. And our kids were like, oh, we didn't get the pizza. We're like, we didn't know they closed, guys. Sorry. But what we could have done had been like, man, that pizza would have been so good.
Yeah, we definitely did not handle it.
No, we didn't have, because we were disappointed. We were like, man.
And again, so like that even goes to the last one, acknowledging feelings with almost silent attention. Just like grunting and just, again, expressing emotion as simply as you can, just again, so your children realize that you identify what the emotion they're feeling, and they can see you express how you're feeling that way in a simple way. So tools for engaging cooperation. Did either of you guys read the book? No. Okay, that's okay. If you read, then it's just like it doesn't make sense to read the book back to you. Tools for engaging cooperation. Be playful. Again, this was another one that I was like, man, that is so good. Where they talked about having one shoe, and then you essentially impersonate the shoe. You're like, man, I'm so lonely. I need my other friend. Or if it's a bin that you want toys to be put in, like the bin's like, man, I'm so hungry. I need blocks in me. And so the kids are just like, oh wow, that's so silly. And you can just get them to clean up that way.
Yeah, you're like, Mr. Shoe is so cold. Wish a nice warm foot to put in him. And the kid's like, I'm gonna put the shoe on. Shoes are a huge thing.
Yeah.
They're the worst. We carry our shoes very often to the car because we just are like, we have to get in the car.
Yeah.
But the other one that I thought was really fun was this kid didn't ever want to put their pajamas on because they knew it meant they were going to bed. And so the mom and the dad created personalities, and there was Mrs. Meanie, which is the default for the mom, which was like, put your pajamas on. And then there was like Silly Sally.
Mr. Robot.
And Mr. Robot. So he came up with
Robot.
Mr. Robot and all these things. And so it's like, Mr. Robot wants you to put your arm in. And then the kid would do it. And then it became, so then she got to pick if she wanted Mr. Robot, Miss Meanie, which was never chosen, Silly Sally, who was like, do sleeves go on your toes? And like was really silly with them. And had these moments where it turned in from a point of conflict to a point of connection. And I think that's, again, one of the bigger takeaways from this is like, when you're a kid and you are having a conflict, it's a point of connection for them. And you can either disconnect in that by arguing with them, dismissing them, telling them that their feelings aren't valid, or we can take it as an opportunity to connect and help them develop their brain to deal with conflict, which I don't think either one of us got very much of growing up.
Yeah, because it's not the default.
It's not the default.
That's all that we keep realizing with all the books. It's just the best opportunity for parenting is not the default setting that is given. It's not usually the easiest choice. It takes thoughtful action. It takes just being exposed to some of this stuff. And so, like you said, with the pajamas, offer a choice. And so it's not like you could put your pajamas on or you could not. It's like, no, you have to put your pajamas on. So what are the choices we can give? Again, the Mr. Robot or Silly Sally, and just giving them the choice. And so by doing that, they get put in charge, and they feel like they have some power. And the book even said something, says Bridget to a T, like you go to a restaurant and they're like, be careful, the plate is hot. And they're like, put it down in front of you. Bridget has to touch the plate.
I can't not do it.
It's just like, she's like, I have to touch that plate.
Like, don't tell me I can't touch it. You don't know what my threshold is. And I'm just like, not hot.
And so
or wow, that was pretty hot. Literally, I'm like, I just have to know. You've taken a thing from me. I'm a brat.
Yeah, and so when we tell our kids, like, you have to do this, their natural response is, well, I don't want to do that. But if you can give them a choice and say, which one do you want to pick, then that gets them in charge, so there's not as much like combativeness, and it's more cooperation. We could work together. Give them information, so just like not just saying this is what I want you to do, but this is why I want you to do it. One of the things we talked about was a seatbelt. Just like put your seatbelt on. It's the law to have your seatbelt on, and so not just like this is what I want you to do, but giving them more reason as to why.
Or even one of them was put your seatbelt on. I can't drive you to your friend's house until it's on. And so it's just like, oh, it's not my mom just issuing orders. It's just like, I want to go to my friend's house, and so this is a part of like what it is. Or we're just like, hey, we need to put our shoes on. This is big with Karen right now at 4 years old. Like, you need to put your shoes on. And she's like, I don't want to put my shoes on. I said, well, it's summer in Florida, and the pavement is really hot, and I am not going to carry you. So if you get to hot pavement and you don't have your shoes on, you're going to burn your feet. Do you remember how much it hurt when you burned your feet the last time? And she'll be like, yeah. And she'll be like, well, I don't think it's hot. I said, well, why don't you just carry your shoes then until it's hot? And then what do we have to do when we get to the hot part and she's panicking? We have to wait, and she sits and she puts on her shoes. But that, each time that happens, she's going to remember that the ground is hot and I'm going to put my shoes on first. But those first 10 times, because training takes a lot, that I'm just like, you have to carry them. She'll carry them. She's just like, I don't want to put them on. I was like, well, you're going to burn your feet. And there's a woman in this book, and they named her Tony, and because they do parenting groups, and then they write these books. And she was like, "Why? When do my kids just listen? Like, when do they just do what I say?" And this gets to when they talk about spanking and punishment. But she's just like, "I just want them to obey what I have to say." And the lady who wrote it is like, "They don't. And you don't obey what other people say yourself. Like, it's just, there isn't a time where kids are just going to listen to you." And honestly, from what we've read and understood is like, we don't want kids that just obey, because the kids that just obey are the kids that obey everyone. And if there's an adult that is trying to hurt them or trying to take advantage of them, they become a doormat and a pushover. And so like just looking for obedience and like just like this staunch, like I say this and you do it, is not the best thing to reinforce. One of the examples in the book, the guy was like, "Oh yeah, my mom used to say she was going to spank me, but she didn't hurt very much, so I just got spanked like it wasn't a big deal." And then this other girl said, "Well, that's not the case for me. My parents used a belt, and I became so terrified of ever doing anything wrong because of the fear of being hit that I became this super withdrawn, and she's still dealing with the problems today." So it's just like, those are two personalities, and it's male, female in that example, but also there's just like, had this snot spanked out of me. Didn't move the needle. But I know that if other kids that I know of that have gotten spanked, it really like made them withdrawn. And so when we're giving information, when we're doing these things, it's very important to think about like, what is my goal here? What kind of kid am I trying to? Because I actually love a little questioning of authority, right? Because I like you to question authority. I don't want you to just be like, "Well, they said that we have to do that." And it's just like, well, why do we have to do it? What is the reasoning behind that? And when we create critical thinkers for children, then that's how we create kids that like are versatile when they have a job or when they go to school or whatever it is that they do. We don't just want robots.
No. Yep.
I think that's an important part of like, why doesn't my kid just obey? Versus like, how do I teach my kid to be a critical thinker, but a respectful critical thinker? And then as they age and they get into more situations where they need to obey, where they need to be in that situation, like if it's a coaching thing or like they're on a team or they're at school, they're going to understand that there are situations where they just need to participate and follow the rules. But they're going to be able to come home to a pair of parents that say like, who's like, "Gosh, coach was so stupid today. I can't believe that they made us run da-da-da-da." And then Vin would be able to be like, "Well, did you guys not listen? Did practice go bad? Like, why did you guys get the punishment of 10 sprints or whatever it is?" And then he would be able to like rationally explain like, this is why. And if Vincent said, "Well, I didn't do it," but you're a part of a team. So if one person on a team isn't doing something, then everybody has. And like having those conversations when they can cognitively understand that is what you're creating. Because all of these things, your parents aren't going to talk to your kids, right? Their teachers aren't going to talk to them. They're going to be in situations like, you can't control how other people, but you want you and your spouse to be the home base, the safe spot, so that even if out there other people are treating them less than you think they deserve to be treated, they know that they're loved and respected at home, and they know that they have a place to talk to. That's what we're creating with every parenting book that we're reading, with every decision that we're making for our family team, is that we want to strengthen their bond with us, and that's what all this effort is for. When you get tired, that's what I have to tell myself.
Yes.
Thursday is the roughest day for me to be a mother. It's the worst day. Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning, I'm my least good mother stuff. Mondays, killing it. Slowly wears off.
Yeah. Say it with a gesture. I'll talk about that in the parenting, I forgot what it said, like different needs children, because there's a really strong brain-based reason for why that's important. Describe what you see and describe how you feel takes the onus off of the child. Just say like, you did X, Y, or Z, and so like that immediately again puts us in a combative nature, versus this is what I said. I literally just did this morning. Like our son, he had yogurt on his shirt, and he said, "Mommy, how do I get the yogurt off?" And he grabbed a towel and he wiped off his shirt and then threw it on the floor. I said, "Vincent, I see that the towel that you used to clean your shirt is now on the floor," and I didn't have to tell him what to do. He knew that it didn't belong on the floor, and he didn't do it right away. He wanted to keep doing his thing, but just repeatedly saying like, "I still see that the towel's on the floor," and so that gave him the impetus to like, okay, I have to pick that up and put it where it belongs. And then describe how you feel, or for older kids with younger kids who can't describe how they feel, you can tell them how it seems like their actions made that person feel, so then they can figure out again, they could see that consequence of their action. Write a note, again, putting it in words helps tremendously. And then take action without insult is an action that she gives for many of the different scenarios. And essentially that's to the point where your child is not listening and there's no more bandwidth to try to work through this. It's just like, let's get done what needs to get done without harming the child in the process. And so there's a whole thing on just like them running in the street and all that stuff. But even something like picking up the towels, like, okay, Vincent, we're going to pick up the towel now because it is on the floor and we have to get ready to go, or we're trying to vacuum. And so and don't say, I told you 500 times and you're not listening and all that stuff. Because again, that's more of that combative nature. It's taking the actions. We have to do this without insulting the child and harming that relationship. Tools for resolving conflict. And again, this is where a lot of them are going to overlap. So express feelings strongly, just like, this is exactly what I'm feeling, and don't mince words, just like, this is what is happening. And again, same thing for an older child with a younger child. It's like, this is what it looks like your actions are making them feel. Show your child how to make amends. And so that's where, like, if this is how they're making them feel, how do we make it right? How do we take this action and make it make your sibling feel better from what happened? Offer a choice, take action without insult, and then try problem solving. It's just like, if this is where we're at, what are our options? What can we do to resolve this conflict? And part of that problem solving is you have to acknowledge your emotion. You have to see, like, what are the possible outcomes that we can have, and then let's pick one of those outcomes and implement it.
I think one of the big takeaways from this section was when I say, I'm really nervous about how you're carrying your sister. And so, like, you label how you feel. So our kids really like to drag our third child around. And we're like, I'm uncomfortable. And the example they gave, we're going to go to the Grand Canyon this summer, and I can hear Vincent already. Vincent hates heights. I'm literally going right up to the edge of the Grand Canyon. Like, I want to hang my head over the edge. I want to feel the depth. Like, I want that thrill. Like, I am excited about it. But I know that he's going to be, like, gripping the fence, like, where it's like, don't go past this. I'm going past it. Like, don't tell me what to do. And that's just who I am as a person. But he's going to say, I can hear him, I am very worried about Karen and Vincent by the edge. Like, I am very nervous they're going to fall. I am scared. And he might not say scared because that's hard for guys to say. But, like, he is going to say, like, I do not feel comfortable. And I'm going to be like, I've got them, Vin. Like, I'll take one at a time to show them. And I'll say to the kids, like, Daddy is really nervous. So one of us is going to go at the time and look, and we'll take turns. And he's like, and they're going to be like, is Honora going to come? And he's going to be like, absolutely not. I can't. But we are going to have to stay in that thing. I'm really scared. Or I said to Vincent, gosh, what were we doing the other day? And I was like, this is really making me scared. Oh, we went to Buc-ee's. I don't know why everybody loves Buc-ee's. It is not my favorite place in the world. I am overwhelmed the second, and I don't get overwhelmed by theme parks, but Buc-ee's, for whatever reason, there's people yelling, there's a line for the bathroom, and as soon as we walk in, I'm like, my kids are going to get snatched. Like, this is the perfect place to snatch kids. And so I, like, literally said to them, I was like, Mommy really doesn't like this gas station. Can you please hold my hand because I am scared? And they were like, yes, Mom. We will totally hold your hand because you're scared. You do that for me. I will do that for you. And then we were in the bathroom. We're all going to the bathroom, right? And we're in, like, this tiny stall where we're all together. And they're like, why does it scare you? Like, why are you scared? I was like, do you see how many people? They're like, yeah, what's the big deal? I was like, well, what if one of them's a bad guy? And they're like, oh. I was like, right? I was like, it's just a lot of people. They're like, well, can we go look for juice when we're here? I was like, yes. And they're like, all right. We'll hold your hand, Mommy. We'll go look for juice. And I was like, thanks, guys. But the whole time, I was literally like, I hate Buc-ee's. Why do we come here? Whereas other people are like, Buc-ee's is great. I'm just like, it is not my favorite place in the world.
No kids.
With no kids, I would love Buc-ee's.
Tools for praise and appreciation. And the big part of this is, like, you don't want to say good job all the time. And so how to not do that, and I thought this was great. Describe what you see, describe the effort, the effect on others, describe their effort, and describe progress. So instead of just saying, good job, you can say, man, I see that you did X, Y, or Z. I see that what you did, and they talked about, like, a boy petting a cat. It's like, you petting the cat makes the cat feel happy. Describe your effort. You are working so hard. There was a puzzle, and the thing said, don't do this, and say, man, that puzzle was so hard, you did such a good job putting it together. And the daughter replied, it took me so long, or something like that. I was like, man, I see there's a lot of pieces. You must have worked really hard to complete that. And then describe progress, just like, I see that you are moving towards XYZ. It's like, I see that you put your arm in your shirt. Now you only have one arm left to go. Instead of saying, good job getting dressed.
Yesterday we had a Lego malfunction and it broke, and the first thing the kid said was, I worked so hard on that. Like, that was the thing. They were like, gosh, I made that. It just got destroyed. It was an accident. And I had spent so much time making it. And it's just like, how often do we feel that way about, I worked so hard on cleaning the house. I worked so hard on folding those clothes. I worked so hard on making dinner and you're not eating it. And so, like, literally, if we can take a minute and think, gosh, I know when I have worked hard that this would be disappointing to me, that makes me empathetic to my child, and just be like, you did work hard and it was really beautiful, and I know because you're such a hard worker, you can make something even better next time. Why don't I help you pick up these pieces? Because the other thing is that their work is destroyed, and then we're like, well, pick it up. And it's just like, if we were just like, we dropped dinner that we made all day, or birthday cake, would you just, if your husband said to you, well, just pick it up, you'd be like, you? You'd be like, how can I help you with that? Like, it's all right. It's still going to taste good. Like, we'll scrape off the parts. Like, problem solving, encouraging. Like, I know it's still going to taste good even if it doesn't look perfect. Like, those are the kind of things that would comfort it if it happened to us. That was the biggest takeaway I had from this kid. Every time I say something to my kids now, I'm like, ooh, I would hate that. I can't say that. Like, don't say that. That would just piss me off. And so I'm working on it.
Yeah, tools for kids who are differently wired. And again, this part, I think from a brain-based perspective, is really crucial for all kids. I don't care how they're wired, because essentially it just breaks down how can we get into a child's world as opposed to just attacking them and constantly begrudging everything that they're trying to do. And so join them in their world, just like, man, let's imagine we are 4 years old. Like, how would we want to be interacted with? Take time to imagine what your child is experiencing and put yourselves in their shoes. Put into words what kids want to say. Oftentimes, they, again, just like we talked about in the beginning, they don't have the words to describe what they're feeling. So if you can describe it for them, it always works much better. Adjust expectations, manage the environment instead of the child. I think that is huge. You're really good at knowing, like, this is where we're entering. How can we best support our children in this environment, especially in environments that we can't control? And so they're talking about, like, kids running away and what that looks like. But just trying to manage the environment as opposed to just constantly yelling at the kids and just saying no all the time. It's like, how can we set them up for success, given that they can do, as opposed to having to tell them no the entire time that they are with us. Use alternative to spoken word, and this is, I think, the biggest one, where it's just like using notes, checklists, pictures, songs, gestures, anything, because the hardest thing to process in the brain is an abstract thought, which is what a feeling is. It's this thing that it's not tangible at all, it's just something that essentially is happening to us. But if we can take that abstract thing and turn it into something more tangible, then that's easier to process on the brain. And that's where even gesturing, like if I say, Bridget, come here, that is an abstract thought. It's like, well, come here, like, what does that even mean? Versus if I say, do this, and it's like, oh, like, I can see. And so, like, for the kids, and I go through seasons of this where they're having trouble listening, I just say Vincent, and I just to get his attention, and I just gesture. Just like I don't even have to say anything, just come here, because that gesturing, there's no, well, I don't know what that means. It's just very clear. It doesn't take any brain ability to process that motion. It's just come here. And so notes and checklists, again, that takes it from an abstract thing. It's like clean your room. It's like, gosh, clean your room. What does that even mean? Versus put your clothes away. Like that's not even specific enough. Pick up your underwear and put it in your underwear drawer. Like that is a very super tangible thing where, again, regardless of the child's ability, it just makes it easier for them to process everything. Pictures and songs are great as well.
If we put our kids in the room and say, clean it, they can't. Yeah. But if we sit on the bed and we're like, all right, Karen, pick up your clothes first and put those away. And let's hang up these dresses. Let's get 3 hangers. You have 3 dresses. And like literally, because if they walk in and they have to do it, they're overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. Like they cannot handle the vastness of cleaning the room. And I think all of us understand this when we feel the vastness of cleaning our house, right? We're like, there's so much to do. Oh my gosh. And the one thing, the managing the environment, you have a typo there, babe, just for future, is, I didn't mean to slide you down. I just knew that we'd never go fix it. But when we are going somewhere and we're without him, which is all week long, I'm like, all right, Vincent, I have 3 kids by myself. I have to carry the baby. Karen needs help. I need you to be on my team. I can't have you walk away from me. I need to stay together. This is like, especially if we're going in somewhere like Target. And I know that the only thing my children want to do if they see that we're at Target is have time to play with the toys in the toy aisle. My friend Jen gave me this tip, and you set a timer, and you're like, you have 7 minutes to do whatever you want in this toy aisle. And he always wants to go play with the Paw Patrol toys because we don't have them in our house. And so he's like, I want to go there. And Karen wants to go in the baby doll aisle. And thank God, Target, they're right next to each other. So I stand in the middle of these two aisles. My kids have 7 minutes. And I was like, so if we're going to get our toy time to play with any toy you want, then I need this. And I was like, so you're going to put your hand on the thing? And is it perfect? No, but I just go to Vin. Remember what we talked about? Remember what I said? Mommy needs help. It's just me with the three of you. I don't have Daddy to help me today. Can you help me like Daddy helps me? And he's like, of course I can. I'm a man. And then the other thing that, again, I think it was my friend Jen who taught me this, but when they're like, can I have this toy? Like, I will put that on your wish list. Yes, I will write that down. And so now our kids are like, for Christmas, for my birthday, for the next time I get a present, can I have this toy? I'm like, I will write it down. Or they're like, will you take a picture of me with it? And we're like, absolutely. Why not say yes to that? And so instead of having to buy like smaller, cheaper things, you can have this list. And then when the kids are like, oh, my birthday, we're like, well, on your list, you said that you wanted these things. And they're like, oh, I don't want that anymore. I want this. And we're like, okay, cool. And they are like, oh, my mom has a list of all of these things, and that is enough. That is enough. And those two things are huge game changers when I'm like, okay, we gotta go to Target, we just need diapers. But I budget in the time for 7 minutes of play in the aisle time. Yep. And it's hard with 3 kids because they all want to be in a different aisle, so we take turns.
Yep. Tell them what they can do instead of what they can't. I think just very simply, the brain does not process negatives. So if you say, don't do X, Y, or Z, all the brain hears is do that. And so just say, again, instead of saying don't run, say walk. Instead of don't yell, speak quietly.
Like, can you walk like a turtle? Yeah. That one really helps a lot. Or can you like describe the animal? Or if like, hey, we need to go fast, can you be like a cheetah?
Yep.
And those things that kids get, right? Are very helpful.
And so these are the conditions in which the tools will not work. And so if you're trying stuff and you see this, like, well, that's not working because they're tired, they're hungry. So lack of food, lack of sleep, need for recovery time. If they just had a big weekend, they're like, I need to recover. Feeling overwhelmed or lack of developmental readiness. And again, we could probably do a whole talk on like how do we decrease the demand on our children based off of all the different things. And so even like with cleaning the room, one of the developmental hierarchies is object, picture, and then symbol. And so the object is it's like, here, take this and put this in your drawer. A picture is, here's what it should look like, make the room look like this. And a symbol is, clean your room. And so if our kids are having more of a demand on them, it's like, how do we decrease it? And again, instead of saying these abstract things and using these symbols, let's give them the object and say, like, here, put this away. Like, pick up the thing that's on the floor, put it in their hand and say, put this where it belongs, or put this in your drawer, wherever it is, depending on their ability. We're just trying to decrease the demand on them because it'll make everyone so much easier. And so then she breaks it down in specific things, and some of these we've already talked about in different books. So food fights, we talked about the book, French Kids Eat Everything, and I think I left one out. I probably shouldn't have left it out. I'm just kind of giving clarification with it. But acknowledge failing, just say, I know, I can see that you don't want to eat this or whatever it is. Again, manage the environment, and this is where in French Kids Eat Everything, they talk about don't have snacks everywhere, or like don't let your kids have snacks, because then if you give them snacks, then they're not going to want to eat. But even we're dealing with this now with Honora, who she loves these pouches, and Karen's like, oh, I want a pouch, and she takes a pouch and goes next to Honora, and then Honora's like, she starts screaming because she wants the pouch, and so it's like, let's just not put the pouch near Honora because she's going to freak out if she sees it, or same thing with dessert or whatever it is, and just trying to let the kids focus on what they want to eat. Put the child in charge of planning, shopping, and preparing, just making them a part of the whole process so they feel like a part of the team and they have more invested in the food, as opposed to you doing all the work in the background and then they're just like, well, I don't want to eat that. But if they're making it and they're part of choosing what we eat and shopping, then they're going to be more likely to want to eat it. And then give them information, and they talk about this in French Kids Eat Everything. So like, if you want it, and I don't know if this works for all kids, but this really works for our kids. If you want to get bigger, bigger, you have to eat your meat. And so that is a thing we talk about. And so if you want to get bigger, you have to eat meat. So we always eat our meat first. And another thing is if they try something and they don't like it, we always say, well, you'll like that when you get bigger. So it's always another opportunity to give them that food later. To say, well, you tried it last time. And say, well, I didn't like it last time. It's like, well, just try it again. And I think in French Kids Eat Everything, it was 7 or 12 times.
I think it's 7.
7 times a child has to be exposed to a taste before they like it. And so it's even in that book they talk about, you don't even have to eat it. You just have to put it in your mouth. And if you don't like it, then here's what you do. You can spit it out, spit it into a napkin, whatever it is. But you have to at least try it. But it's always, they always say, like, meat, because meat is going to be, we used to say get you the top spot. I don't even know what we say now.
They just want to beat you.
Yeah.
It's all about if they can wrestle Daddy and win. And then we're like, Daddy, how many hamburgers did Daddy just have? 3? And Vincent's like, you ate 3? Like, yeah. And then Daddy's like, that's how I got this big. And Vincent's like, well, so focused. He's like, I have to get there. Yeah.
I'm like, it's this protein is going to give you muscles.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
Because Vincent truly just wants to beat him. I was like, I don't think you're ever going to beat him. I think Daddy's going to train forever. He goes, oh no, I will. I said, I can't wait to see it. But it's not going to happen if you don't eat that hamburger.
Yeah. So morning madness, I feel like this is one where we can definitely be better. Be playful. And so again, just trying to have fun as opposed to being so like, this is what needs to happen, and constantly be going and on the run and just trying to rush the kids everywhere, because then that kind of puts that emotion into them. Offer them a choice, again, this one or that one. Put the child in charge. Again, which one do you want to do first? Try problem solving. It's like, if this is our problem, if this is what's going on, how can we be better? And then acknowledge their feelings in that situation.
One of the things that I learned, and that has been very hard for him, but he's done a great job with, I said, the people's memory of going to church with their families centered so much more around how awful their parents were about getting to church on time versus what they actually got at church. And I was like, wow, I am convicted. Like, and so the 2 things we've done is, because he really loves worship. Like, I love worship, but if I miss it, it doesn't affect the church service for me. But for him, it really, like, it's a huge negative if we miss worship. So the first thing I said is, like, you can listen to the same songs, like, and he's just like, you don't understand. So I'm just trying to tell him, like, your feelings are not valid, right? And so one of the things he does is he starts playing the worship music, or church records it when we get in the car. Like, he's like, I'm listening to this. The second thing is that we started going to a later service so that we could have a slower morning. And that kind of sucks for the rest of our day, but in the season we're in with 3 small kids, going to the later service just is easier. So we don't have to rush through breakfast if we sleep in, like whatever it is, especially in the summer. We're going to 11:22, we're not going to 9. So that's really helpful to it. And just like, we don't want our kids' memory of going to church to be us being jerks to them all morning to get them there, and then pushing them in a room where we're not with them, and then picking them up and saying, like, well, no, we're not going to lunch. No, we have all these errands to run. Like, we're trying to make this like a positive thing, like something they look forward to. And so if the morning is not something that you look forward to, another person I follow on Instagram is like, then prep the night before. And that's so hard for me. But just like, if it's going to school, like, your lunches should be made the night before. While one parent is putting them to sleep, the other parent should be prepping for the morning. If you know that Mondays are the hardest, like, what is the best breakfast that they love? Is it yogurt? Is it pancakes? Prep that the night before, put them in the toaster, and so they have pancakes, so they have something to look forward to on Mondays. And so, like, these places where there's battles, like, set yourself up more. If they have a favorite plate, make sure it's clean. Like, just like, stack the odds in your favor. So, like, on your panda plate, there are 3 pancakes. So as soon as you're dressed and ready for school, you get to have these pancakes on your favorite plate ever. And then it's like, gosh, I'm so pumped for this. I will totally get dressed for school. We had a huge problem with our son going to school for the first, 3 months. He just did not want to get out of the car. And we did all these different things. And then as he got more comfortable with school and comfortable with the people, he ran into school. But then now we have a new babysitter, and he doesn't have any problem with her. He wants her to come to everything when it's like, he wants her to come to birthday, wants her to come over to dinner. But when we're about to leave him with her, he's like, I don't want to leave you. And we explained to him, like, you have to go to work. You guys want us to buy things for you all the time. There's money. And I just said, eventually we're just like, it must be really hard when mommy and daddy have to go to work. That must make you really sad. But the best part is we always come home. And now he doesn't have to get put to bed by her. That fixed the majority of it. He's like, I just don't want her to put me me to bed. I want you to put me to bed. I was like, no, go to bed. We don't have anywhere to be on Friday mornings. Fine, we'll be there. Because it's Thursday night, so we do this. And so just being like, how can we problem solve this? The problem solving for that was my kid did not want to be put to bed by another person, or he really wanted to have time to eat. So that means we have to go to bed earlier, and I have to wake him up earlier. So he has that time in the morning to get out all the feelings of before school, and then we go. But letting him sleep in, that didn't work out for us. So those are all the things to like figure out hard transition times.
Sibling rivalry. It was the whole last book that we talked about.
Last month's Sibling Rivalry.
That was a good book too, written by the same authors. So
don't compare your kids. That was the biggest thing that we took away from it.
Yeah.
And we are terrible. Your brother does it. Honora's a great eater. We're like, oh. Yeah.
Accept feelings, give wishes in fantasy, describe what you see, put the child in charge, reconnect with your child, take action without insult, and try problem solving again. This is where it's just like, how do you apply all these things in each situation?
In the PDF, it gives you, like, in the Sibling Rivalry, it gives you an example underneath each thing and each category. So it's a very, very good, to apply this. But the Sibling Rivalry, they literally had to write, these authors had to write an entire book on it because the chapter just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it was a very good book, very clarifying for us as we felt with our own siblings, to like try and not repeat that with our own kids. So it was a monster. But we're gonna put these all somewhere, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna post them. We'll let you know where they are.
Shopping with children, put the child in charge, offer a choice, acknowledge feelings with a wish list, and then give information, let the children know what to expect before you enter into the store. It's like, this is what we're going for, this is what's going to happen. Again, giving them a, like, you can play for 5 minutes thing.
Sorry, I did that too early in the talk.
It's okay. But again, I think the thing was the wish list. We're just like, oh, you want that? Let me just write it down. So they feel heard, and it's just like, okay, that's going to go somewhere. And again, it diffuses that situation. And when it's time to come, and it's just like, well, I have this list. Like, you don't want that anymore? It's like, great, we'll delete it. But it's like the amount of fights and arguments that it would save in the store at the moment is
the other
incredible.
Thing that is helpful with this is that we have snacks that we do when we travel. And so our kids are always like, can we get these snacks? And we're like, no, those are road trip snacks, or those are traveling snacks or whatever. And so, or like for school, like those are school lunch snacks. So you're not going to school this summer, so we don't have that lunch, so we're not going to have that snack. And so just giving things time and a place. Our son thinks hot dogs are the greatest thing in the world in his mind. He doesn't even eat them. Like, he doesn't like them in person, but he thinks hot dogs are great. So he's like, can we please get hot dogs? And I'm like, we'll have hot dogs at the next party. So next time we have a party, we will have a hot dog. My mother-in-law went to the ends of the earth this weekend to make sure there were organic hot dogs. My kids didn't even eat them. Didn't even eat them. Even though they're like, please don't forget, you have to get these hot dogs. Like, okay, well, we'll have them at the next party.
This sounds like Luca.
Yeah. Like just say like, yeah, we can't do it tonight. That's not like an everyday, it's a special thing. And we'll do it the next time we have people over. We'll do a barbecue on Saturday and we'll have hot dogs and like whatever it is. It's just like, you don't actually like this. Why are you so in love with the idea of hot dogs? But what I found is love this the specialness of things. So they love the road trip. They love, and so now they have these food associating things. Like, so if we ask them, like, if you want to go on a trip or have a birthday party. And so Karen's like really thinking about it. And Karen is 4. And she's like, I think I want to go on a trip. We're like, oh yeah, where do you want to go? She's like, to a hotel. We're like, okay, but where? And she's like, with a pool. I was like, but where? I was like, we could probably go to a hotel in Jacksonville because this girl just wants to have hotel snacks,
go in the
elevator, and have a pool. We have a pool, but we don't have that pool. And it's just like, so now like in her mind, like a trip means that mommy and daddy go to a conference and we get to play with someone and go in the pool, and it's so great. And we're like, wow, that's what you think a trip is. And if another thing, just to talk about it really quick, there was this thing, and I shared this last talk, is that they asked all these grown-ups, all these couples, like, if you could eat dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would you eat? And they were like, oh, I'd pick Madonna, I'd pick George Washington, I'd pick Theodore Roosevelt, I'd pick John Glenn, like everybody picked that. And then they took those same couples, their kids, and brought them in. They said to the kids, if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would you have? And they're like, my family, my cousins, all of my grandma and grandpa, and everybody would be there, my whole family, because all they want to do is have dinner with the most important people in their life. And like all the parents were like, our kids, why didn't we say our kids? Like, and it's just like eating with our kids is stressful, but to them it's everything.
I'm like, can we please not eat the kids?
Yeah.
Can we please go have to dinner without?
Yes.
Yep.
We are with you.
So lies, again, from like a brain-based perspective, lies are a part of the developmental process. Like, in order for a child to be able to say, this is what I know you want me to say, and this is what I know I should have done, but I didn't do that, but I'm going to tell you that I did it. Like, that is a hugely complex,
It's very smart.
developmental task.
When your kid starts and you're like, well, we were leveling up, you little asshole.
So it's like, just recognize that for what it is, but then also as you're trying to deal with lies, you don't want your kid to be a liar. Do you describe what you see as like, I see this, that made me feel this way. You could acknowledge how they feel, and then how do we get this better? How do we fix it so they can make amends? And then just adjusting expectations again. I think that's the big part, especially for younger kids when they're just even learning, just like, man, there's a whole world that I can make this thing up that's not real, but I know what it is. Like our daughter with food. I mean, she'll hide her food. She'll throw it out and say she ate it. She'll gave one of her chicken nuggets to the baby. She'll do it but again, just like she knows what the expectation is, and she knows if I'm not meeting it, I don't want to get in trouble, so I'm going to lie. And so, yeah. So parents have feelings too. Express your feelings strongly. Tell them what they can do instead of what they can't do. And don't forget the basics. Give yourself and your child time to recover. And I think this is where it talked about, I'm pretty sure this is where it talked about, if your child is running into traffic, like make sure you tell your child what you're feeling. I think it might be the next one actually. Well, tattling, again, acknowledge feelings, help the child make amends, try problem solving. It's like, what else can we do? Cleaning up, be playful, offer a choice, write a note. And so again, it's just all the same tools.
To be playful would be like, oh, I'm so lonely here on the floor as a shirt. Where are all my shirt friends? Or I'm dirty. I need to go into the hamper. I'm so dirty. How am I going to get clean?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm very excited about implementing the silly one.
Yeah. Doctor's orders.
You were going to say something like 4 slides back.
Well, no, it's still going.
Okay.
Doctor's orders, acknowledge feelings, offer in fantasy where you can't reality, offer a choice. And so, like, in our office, I'm like, which table do you want to get adjusted on? It says offer in fantasy. Is like, just like, imagine if I was talking about some sort of medicine or something like that. It said, imagine if instead of having to take this medicine, it was in a lollipop or something like that. It's like, oh, that might set you up for failure. It's like, I want the medicine, the lollipop medicine. Give information is like, why is this beneficial? Try problem solving is like, how else can we do this? Be playful with it. And then again, take action without insult. And the last one's like, well, this has to get done. I'm sorry that it's making you upset. And then just do it that way. Shy kids, and this is Karen again, acknowledge your feelings, adjust expectations, offer a choice, be playful, put the child in charge. It's like, whenever you're ready, you can come out and interact. Little Runaways, this is where it was.
You are cruising, honey.
Well, yeah, I mean, 6 minutes left.
It's like it says the same thing over and over.
It's all the same. Adjust expectations, so manage the environment instead of the child. Acknowledge your child's feelings. Describe your own feelings. Again, that's where it's like I'm scared in Buc-ee's.
But Little Runaways means like your kid that leaves you.
Yeah.
And so, you can look at manage the environment and be like, I just need to put a leash on my kid. But if it's like, wow, my kid's really hard at staying and putting them in the stroller where they know like we're going to go for a walk and that this is not, you have to use that as your shopping cart. Like, unfortunately, that might be better than putting a leash on your kid or just putting them in the cart and having them scream the whole time. And so one of the things that worked for me when I had 2 kids and I was pregnant with Honora was that I would get 2 carts because both the kids wanted to be in the cart. Vincent wanted to sit in the big part of the cart. Karen wanted to sit in the top. So I had 1 cart with 2 children in it and I had 1 cart for groceries. And so I would pull them and I would push the empty cart. And people are like, you have your hands, and I was pregnant. They're like, you have your hands full. I was like, I don't. My hands are empty because I have the 2 in the cart, 1 in the belly. I am totally fine. But like managing the environment, or what he'll say to me now all the time is he was like, I need to go to the store to get things. Who do you want to take? Who you want me to take? And I'm like, you have to take Karen. Like, that's the one you have to take. And so like managing the environment, saying like, okay, our kids obviously need training in stores in these things. And so how many opportunities can we, when we're together as parents over the weekend, have my husband be training 1 kid versus us going all of us? And so like taking the opportunity to be like, well, let's manage the environment. So instead of 3 kids at once, maybe it's easier if it's just the 2 bigs. Or those things like, okay, well, it'd just be really easy if I just took the baby with me. Or we really need groceries and it needs to be fast, so all the kids are staying home with dad. I'm going to the grocery store for 15 minutes by myself. And that is sometimes managing the environment instead of the child. And then if you know your kid is a runaway, then maybe it's not the best year to take them to the beach for the 4th of July. And while that sucks and you don't want to miss that memory or whatever, sometimes that's going to be the best thing for you because it's dark and there's fireworks and there's 100 people and your kid leaves. Like, it just doesn't sound like, or strapping them to a thing while they scream and ruin it for everybody else. These are just things you do, like, be like, maybe it's the year our kids are in bed at 7 and we sit outside on our roof and watch fireworks from far away, because that would be the best thing. Because our kids do not love fireworks and they're not great at staying up. We love bedtime in our house.
You can also watch them on TV.
Yeah.
We do that.
Yeah. It's just like there are just seasons. We're going to be alive for 70 to 80 years. I think that we will get enough fireworks in that time between New Year's Eve and 4th of July.
Yep. Hitting, punching, pinching, poking, pushing. Yeah. And so again, it's the same thing. So take action rather than insult. Usually it's the last thing. For this one, it was the first one. So it's like, I can't allow you to hurt your brother. And I see that you're getting angry. I can't allow that to happen. And so, like, separating them first, then express your feelings strongly is, again, I have to protect your brother. It looks like you are going to hurt him. How can we help make this better? And again, making them a part of the decision-making process. Acknowledge their feelings. I can see that you're upset that he took your toy. But at the same, and he said never say but. Because if you say but, then it just takes away everything you said.
Keep your butts in the seats.
Yeah.
Don't ever say but. We're terrible. We say a lot of butts.
And so it's just like, I could see how you're feeling. And she gave 2 really good examples, like 2 other things to say.
But so Vincent's about to slap Karen, or he slapped Karen. I have to take Karen and I say, I can't let you slap my daughter. I have to protect her. I am so angry you slapped Karen. Not, you shouldn't have slapped Karen. You're doing the wrong thing. You. Because as soon as it happens, he's like, well, she scratched me. And then it's like a whole thing, right? Because our kids beat the crap out of each other.
Oh, yeah.
Full disclosure, okay? Our kids beat the crap out of each other. And so I have to take care and I have to say, I need to protect my daughter. That's my job as her mother. I can't let you do this. I, never you. And then help your child make amends. Why did you hit her? Well, she scratched me. Karen's the scratch master. She might be a cat in another life. Why did you scratch Vincent? I didn't like the way he was looking at me. Well, Karen, first I say to Vincent, if you had not hit her, only she would be getting in trouble now, but both of you are getting in trouble. I always say that. I'm like, if you could just control yourself. Which I'm like, I don't control myself sometimes. And I have a prefrontal cortex that's fully functioning and my kids don't. But I'll be like, Karen, if you didn't like the way that Vincent was looking at you, is scratching him the best way? And she'll be like, no. And I'll be like, does Vincent hit really hard? And she'll be like, yeah. I was like, do you think you could have told him to stop looking at you? And she might say, I did. Then I have to go back to Vincent. Vincent, did she tell you to stop? He's like, yeah, but I didn't want to. And I was like, then you are the problem. Like, and you're here and you're just like, I just want to slap the both of you across your faces until you listen. But that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I feel that way.
I don't want to spend game this summer.
Yeah. It's,
I have a lot of regrets.
yeah. Because we are making a decision without thinking. We're emotionally reacting.
Yeah.
2 things you could say instead of but. So the first one is the problem is. And so the example she gives, it can be irritating to have to deal with a baby when you're trying to build a spaceship. The problem is babies don't understand about Legos. And it says, how disappointing to find an empty box when you're in the mood for cookies. The problem is it's too late to go shopping. And the other one that she said is, even though you know. So she said,
And when she fixed this cookie one with, let's draw a cookie.
Yeah.
And they drew a cookie on a piece of paper, and she was like, what kind of cookie do you want it to be? Chocolate chip? And she was like, yeah, do you want to draw the chocolate chips, or do you want me to? And she's like, I will. And then she's like, do you want it to be a happy cookie? And she carried the cookie around for the rest of the night and didn't care about actually having a cookie. And I was like, is this real? Is this actually going to happen? I'm excited to try out all these things.
And then the other one that she said, instead of saying but, is even though you know. So she said, even though you know it's too late to go shopping for cookies, you'd sure like to have some right now. Even though you know it's time to pick up your brother at the bus stop, it can be exasperating to have to leave the playground when you're having fun. And then even though you know is not off-putting because it gives your child credit for understanding the problem, at the same time letting them know that you empathize with how strongly they feel.
Taking the action without insult with the hitting is like, we need to separate.
Yep.
Like just saying the action, like we need to separate. And then attend to injuries. Let me kiss that bump. Do you want a piece of ice for your head? And then you express your feelings strongly. I don't like seeing Isabel hurt. This makes me very upset. And then you help the child to make amends. This is so well done by our kids' preschool. But it says, Isabel needs something to make her feel better. Can you find her a toy, or do you think she'd like a strawberry? So if one of our kids hurts the other, you go get them ice. And Vincent's school, they have a thing called a boo-boo ball. And it's just those reusable ice cubes. And so, like, you can get this little tiny cold thing that the kid can hold, and then they're, like, done. You know, they're done with an ice pack before they even use it. And then acknowledging, like, it must be really frustrating that Karen scratched you, and it must be really frustrating that Vincent just was staring at you and you didn't want him to. Or saying it's not easy to resist hitting or punching, because we don't resist hitting or punching, right? Because we spank them. One of the biggest arguments against spanking that I've ever heard that I still struggle with is, if we're teaching our kids not to hit, why are we hitting them? It's just like, that makes sense, but I don't know what to do when I'm at my wit's end. And then give information. No pushing is allowed in this house. Daddy's not allowed to push me. You are not allowed to push your sister. She's not allowed to push you. And I'm not allowed to push either of you unless you need a push on a swing. And like, I was like, gosh, again, making it like, when do we push? We have this book that's really great called Hands Are Not for Hitting, which we probably need to revisit with Karen. But it just goes through the whole book. It's like, hands are not for hitting. Hands are for high fives. Hands are for holding hands to be safe. Hands are for thumbs up. Hands are for washing. Hands are for brushing our teeth. And it just goes through all the things hands can do. And then it's like, hands are not for hitting. And so like, and they have it for teeth are not for biting. And they have like a whole thing. And so just being like, we don't push each other. And I say that to them all the time. I was like, do I scratch Daddy? And they're like, no. They're like, does Daddy scratch me? And they're like, no. We're still scratching, but we talk about it every time. Makes you want to go crazy. Especially when you're alone.
Every day.
Especially when you're alone.
Oh yeah. Eric's going like Tuesday to Thursday most
Yeah.
weeks.
It's just like, oh my God, I don't.
Every single one of them.
Yeah. By Thursday comes, Vincent knows on Wednesday night when he comes home, he's just like, what do you need? This looks like you need me to take all of them. And he'll have a baby who does not want to go to bed and 2 kids. And I'll just be on the couch like, Wednesday afternoons are a rough time.
Yeah. Sleep. Sleep is another one just from a brain perspective.
I feel like we do this one really good.
When kids, yeah.
I think this is like, of all the things we read, I'm like, I feel like we've really figured out sleep in our house.
Just when you put.
Go to bed
Yeah.
at like the same time every night without like acting like crazy delirious little midgets running around like throwing each other across the couch and stuff.
I feel like we allow that to happen before bedtime. And so I'd say maybe just start bedtime sooner and let them have that time to, like yesterday, Sunday, it had to be Sunday because it was yesterday. They go on one side of the house, they run around the island in the kitchen and run back and say, Daddy, start a timer. And so I'll start the timer and they run and run and
But
run.
they have to get in their pajamas to unlock
First,
this
yeah.
activity. So we like they're like, I want to wrestle, and Vincent's like, okay, we can wrestle, but I need you to get in your pajamas first. So there's like, oh, you want to jump on the bed? Like, okay, here's what I'm thinking. Let's take a bath and get our pajamas on, and then we'll take all the couch cushions off and all the nuggets, and we'll put them in a big pile, and we'll just jump into them.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? Are you the coolest mom ever? And then they're like, and so now they're like looking forward to this thing, and you'll be like, all right, we're going to do this for 5 minutes. I'm going to put a timer on. So for 5 minutes, they can go as hard as they want. Probably 10 is better for the ages of your kids. 10 minutes where we can do this for as long as we want. Maybe 7. 10 might be too long. You'll find out. It's a sweet spot. And so they're going to do it. They're going to jump. Your daughter's going to think this is the greatest thing that ever happened, but they're accidentally going to hurt her. So before you just like, look out for her, okay? Like if you see her, just try to avoid her because she's learning how to play with you guys. And they're like, oh, I can do that. You guys are teaching her how to be so fun. So they jump and they jump and they jump and they go, okay, the timer's up. We're going to put the couch cushions in and then we're going to see who can get in the bed the fastest. And then that's the end. And they were like, and then we get to read a book.
Yep.
And then, so you're like, okay, but we don't get to unlock this activity. So our kids don't unlock books if they don't do the other things. So the
Take a
first,
bath, brush your teeth.
yeah, brush our teeth, bed, bath, books, bed, books,
Bed.
bath, books, bed.
Everything works better though when it's like just me.
Yeah,
If Eric's there, it's just like procrastination. Everything's slower, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I can tell you that
routine.
every woman that I know has that. They're like, dads just don't do bedtime. Now, I have a wonderful dad who is the bedtime master. He takes the kids for the whole bed. I don't even do bedtime the majority of the time. I probably do bedtime 2 nights a week. And so I think that was what really switched it for us and why bedtime is so great, because we're on the same page. But I'm pretty uninvolved. So it's really a special daddy time because he doesn't also get time with them all day. So like he has figured out, like the goal is that they're asleep by 8:30. We have to start at 7 to get there. And this is the wait. So we did it a long time together, and now they're just like, oh, daddy's home, so we're gonna wrestle. Mommy got us ready for daddy, and then we're going to bed.
Yeah, I feel like that movement part, most people think it's like counterintuitive, it's like rile them up before going to bed. But like they sleep better.
They burn
that
off
way.
the energy. It's scientifically proven.
So I think that would be the thing I would change. Like I would not try to not get them to do all that stuff. Say if you have a certain time you want them to go to bed, just start bedtime sooner. But again, I think
While you put your
especially-
pajamas on, I'm gonna build you guys a fort.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is, and just like you have this thing, and then while they're doing that, you can maybe get something done, clean up dinner, whatever it is that you would rather be doing in that time.
Mhm.
But if you don't have these plans, then you're going to be doing your stuff later anyway, because you're going to spend the whole time arguing, and then bedtime becomes this huge fight every night.
I think especially with the boys, that competitiveness, like the competitive spirit inside of them, just trying to gamify as much as you can. Just like we're just like, if you do this, you'll unlock the next step. If you do this, you get to earn this. Let's see who could do it the longest. Let's see who could do it the fastest. And just that gamifying takes that struggle out. It's like, I want you to do this. And you're like, I don't want to do that. It's just like, how can we, again, do this together? And just thinking about it from a cooperative spirit as opposed to a combative one. That will even change their internal decision-making and the emotions that they have surrounding it, which will make them more willing to do it.
We were doing this thing where we were practicing carrying weights, because if you can carry half your body weight for 2 minutes, you're going to like live longer than 60% of the population or something like that. Those are all, fact check all those, but that's about it. And so Vincent
All
Vincent
of those
was
are slightly off. But
yeah, I
just
like to dress up numbers. So just if you want real numbers, or just go with it, what I said. So Vincent's carrying these huge things, and the kids are like, I want to do it. So I got 2 gallons of white vinegar, and so Karen still to this day will take it out and she'll try to carry it for 2 minutes. And so like you'll see, I'm like, you want to burn energy, like it's just this thing. But they also want you to do it with them. Like they're not looking to like crash in this thing and build in this fort. And like, what is it going to hurt for you to just jump in the pillows too and be the cool mom? I try to be cool.
So when parents get angry, this is the slide I was looking for 20 slides ago. In the moment, if you must yell, use your tools loudly. And so again, it's the same things, just say it emphatically. So that's like, again, your child is going to run into the street. You say whatever words you say, and maybe that's where you say no for, or something like that they know, just like immediately, just like, let's just do it fast. And then when everything is calmed down, make sure everyone's safe, and then take care of yourself, reconnect and try problem solving, and then seek help if you feel like your anger is too much. And then troubleshooting. When a child is too upset, again, acknowledge his feelings. Make sure your tone matches their emotion. Try grunt instead of words. Put your child's thoughts into words. Again, just trying to simplify things. And again, I think if you can just say, how abstract is this concept, and how can I make it that much simpler? Again, even the thing that you said, one of the first things you said with the smiley faces. We're just like, again, are you happy? Are you sad? Are you angry? That's still an abstract concept versus a face. Like everybody knows across cultures, if there's a frowny face, they know that person's sad. And so just trying to make as many things as you can, either pictures or objects, the better off that it is. Having one of the things she talked about for timer, and again, I think for the boys this would be great. We have 5 timers here, which is like, there's a 2-minute timer, there's a 5-minute timer. She had a timer where when it turned, the amount of time left was a red slice, and so they were able to say like, man, there's only this much of a slice left. And so again, it's not 5 minutes. Kids don't know what 5 minutes is, but they can see how much this time is compared to how much this time is, and that just helps them understand what is happening. Tell the story of what happened. Storytelling is one of the biggest hacks that you can have of just explaining stuff, and even telling imaginary stories to tell of character traits that you want the kids to have. Give your child time to recover. Help your child climb out of the pit of despair by acknowledging their feelings, giving information, and offering choices. And again, take action, and then go back to the basics. So again, I feel like the coolest part of the book for me was it's not like this crazy elaborate amount of skills that you need to have. There's, I think, at the most 7 different tools that we have, and it's just like, how do we apply each one? And I think similar to most books, we're just like, I would just take one of them, just take one of the tools and just try implementing, or for like the shopping thing or for sleep, just take one thing and just practice implementing that, and then just keep building.
I also think like because you have this, like, your husband's not going to read the book, right? Like, it's this type of thing. But if you print off this PDF and it has everything broken down into the situations, be like, hey, so I read this book, I went to this talk, and for this situation, which we went through today, I just want to talk to you about it. Like, it's just 2 pieces of paper. And these are the things, do you think that you could do this with me? Versus being like, well, I read this book and it said, it's just like, so here's literally the example, like, and there's an example right underneath. And then you can talk to him about, like, could we try this? Would be easier than, like, I'm having a hard time with this and I think this might help, but I need you on my team. And like being like, here's this 1 piece of paper, could you look at it?
Yeah.
And because like if you look at the PDF, it's like really, like, it's just simple. Like, it is
No, I
totally.
was thinking I need to like print it, put it on my refrigerator, because like in the moment when
Yeah.
everything's happening and I'm like raging,
Yep.
it's hard for me to like, you know, I literally need to get the paper and be like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, just to
Yes.
like get
Yep.
myself like.
Well, because they have a
done.
cleanup section, and you could put that in your playroom, and they could be like, when parents get mad, and you could put that on your mirror in the bathroom, and just like put it in places that you could look at it.
I think the key for all these things, again, like you said, if you just do it in the moment, then you're never going to do these things. A Navy SEAL quote is just like, you don't rise to the level of occasion, you fall to your level of preparation and your level of training. And that's where I think the training part is like, I would just try to put yourselves and the kids in situations where you can practice this, where the stakes aren't high. So like, I wouldn't wait until they're in a fight to figure this stuff out. I would almost like stage something to where you can practice this, where again, it's not a crazy high leverage point where the kids are going to kill each other if you don't step in and intervene, but just even like taking their toys and telling a story and just like practicing whatever thing you want to tell through them storytelling. So you have 2 puppets who are fighting, and again, you could teach them the lesson through the story, and just like, how would you resolve the problem between the 2 puppets while you are storytelling to them? And it's just like, okay, like, you get the practice, they get to see what it actually looks like. And I feel like practice, I was talking to another dad last night, it's like, practice, I feel like, is the least utilized tool of the family, because it's just like constantly, until it was like, we just never practice, but we constantly send our kids out to battle and to war. It's like they have no training whatsoever, and we're just like, go figure it out. And then they don't figure it out and they stink at it, and then we get mad, just like, how do you not get this? But we've never trained them to be good at it. And the same thing for us. And so even if you take the kids out to the store today with no plans at all, we're just going to go to Target and just say like, and just try it. Just try something. Just say, hey, we're going to go to Target. I just need you guys, and you don't have any desire to buy anything. We're just going to have you guys hold on to the cart, and if we can do that, if we can hold on to the cart for X amount of time, then we can go in the toy aisle and play, and each child gets 3 minutes in whatever toy aisle they want, and then we'll rotate, and then we'll go home. But just, I think, using practice for you, and especially for the kids, will help level you guys up faster than anything. Because we just don't practice enough, and then we just have such high expectations, and the kids suck.
But you also know how like we sit at the end of the night and we're like, gosh, I was such a crappy mom today. Like, you know, you like go through, relive your day, and you're like, wow, I suck.
Every night I'm praying.
Yeah, me too. Yes. No, I'm there. I literally woke up today and I was like, can you just not suck at mothering, like, for the morning? Like, can you just get it together? And so,
You crushed it.
thanks, babe. But when you're in that like reliving and like beating your up motherhood, I feel like taking what you would have improved from today into tomorrow, and just being like, okay, so I know because we fight every day, this is going to happen. And today when they were fighting over magnetiles, I did the wrong things. So tomorrow when they fight over magnetiles, here's my plan. And I feel like even retroactively, you can talk to yourself and be like, okay, let me do this, and I'll try this tomorrow. Because you're not going to remember to do it all the time. But I really think I would print out the like what to do when you're angry thing.
Oh yeah.
Because, and just like put it on the mirror in our bathroom, so I can like look at it when I'm brushing my teeth, and like just being like, God, like the place, or like right behind the stove, like where you're standing all the time, like, oh my gosh. But those are the things that I think would be the most helpful for us.
Mm-hmm.
But as a mom, I know that every day you end the day just being like, gosh, I was a crap mom today. And then instead of being like, I was a crap mom, just being like, okay, how can I be better tomorrow? And like, what tool can I use from this PDF that I have from this talk to do it?
Yep.
Because you're thinking future, and we are very reflective as women.
Yes. I think as that reflective time is like, well, how do we proactively work on this? And I think training is and I think from a dad's perspective, that also typically makes a lot of sense. Where like, if you ever played sports, you don't just play games. Like, you have to practice, and you practice usually much more than you play, because you need to work on the skills before being put out into the game or into the battle. So we are going to transition a lot of the stuff that we're doing, like the book club that we have been doing the last Tuesday of the month. We're creating this group called It Takes a Village, where we're going to have weekly topics that we'll talk about. And so we're going to do them Thursday at 10:30. Is that right, Bridget?
Mm-hmm.
Thursday at 10:30. And it'll just be more bite-sized chunks. I feel like the books are really good, but I feel like there's so much in each of the books, where if we could just take the book and just break it down into like a section, or take a topic and just like talk about that topic, then it could be much more implementable. And it's just more like, we'll have the topic that we're going to talk about, but if there are other concerns and questions that you have, then we'll have the whole community there to support one another in whatever topic is. So like, we'll start the conversation with whatever topic it is, and then we'll just talk about everybody else's stuff for the rest of the time.